Welcome to the Classic Soap Operas podcast. Today we are opening up a file that is equal parts Hollywood royalty and just absolute daytime chaos.
Oh, it's a wild one.
We're looking at a show that had, the biggest shoes in television history to fill, and spoiler alert, it kind of tripped over them.
It did. But it did this magnificent, almost psychedelic somersault on the way down.
It really did. We're talking about the strange, very brief life of Return to Peyton Place.
It is such a fascinating case study in, television history. You have a property that basically defined the 1960s.
A juggernaut.
The original Peyton Place was a primetime juggernaut. It launched Mia Farrow, Ryan O'Neal, and then just 3 years after it goes off the air, NBC decides to resurrect it.
But not where you'd expect.
No, not as the nighttime drama. They moved it straight to the daytime slot.
Right. And usually when we talk about spin-offs or adaptations, we're talking about taking a book, making a movie, that sort of thing. But this was really specific, wasn't it? It wasn't a reboot in the modern sense.
Exactly. And it's so important to clarify the pedigree here because it explains why the expectations were just sky high. This was not a new take on the Grace Metalius novel.
Or the movie.
And it wasn't a remake of that famous 1957 film.
Yeah.
This was, legally and creatively, a direct continuation of the TV series, the one that ran from 64 to 69.
So the idea was that life in this town just kept going for 3 years. We just didn't see it.
That's the premise.
So I think the mission for today's deep dive is pretty clear. We want to understand how a show with that kind of name recognition, Peyton Place was like the Desperate Housewives of its day.
Oh, absolutely.
How did it struggle so much to find its identity? We're going to get into the backstage casting disasters, the actors who, literally said they hated being there.
Yes.
And the storylines that, well, let's just say they involve evil twins and LSD.
It really was this collision of, prestige, drama, ambition, and the absolute wildest excesses of 1970s daytime TV.
Okay, so let's unpack that. The first big hurdle wasn't even on screen. It was in the contracts, right? You can't have Return to Peyton Place without the people of Peyton Place.
But that was the identity crisis right from the start. The producers were just paralyzed.
What do we do?
Do they replicate the old show? Do they replace everyone? Do they just move on? The problem was the original cast had become huge stars.
Right. Mia Farrow was Mia Farrow.
Exactly. And Ryan O'Neal had just done Love Story. He was a massive movie star by 1972. He was not coming back to do a daily soap opera.
So we get what I'm calling recast roulette. Let's talk about Allison McKenzie. This is the heart of the show, and suddenly she looks very different.
Very different. First, they cast Catherine Glass. Young, talented. But she wasn't Mia Farrow. And then, not even a year later, she's gone, and Pamela Susan Shoop takes over.
So the audience is just trying to keep up.
It just breaks the immersion right away,
But here's where it gets really, really interesting for me. A few actors did come back. You had Frank Ferguson as Eli Carson and Evelyn Scott as Ada Jax.
They provided that continuity.
But the best story, by far, is Patricia Morrow.
Oh, this is a classic example of the tension between art and commerce. Or maybe just life and commerce.
It's hilarious. Okay, so Patricia Morrow played Rita Jax Harrington in the original show. She was a fan favorite. But she told TV Guide in 1971, and I have a quote right here, she said she hated show business.
She did not mince words. She said she started hating television, getting sick and tired of it.
That she felt she had lost herself during the first run.
So she just quit. She goes to law school.
She was done. But then Return to Peyton Place comes calling, and she says, yes.
Well, money talks. As she put it, she couldn't turn it down. She said she had to use her earning power while she had it.
But she had all the leverage because she didn't really need the job.
Total leverage. She negotiated a contract where she only had to work 2 days a week.
So she could stay in law school. Can you even imagine that conversation? I hate this industry. I'm studying to sue people like you. But yeah, I'll see you on Tuesdays and Thursdays.
It's a power move, but it also creates this really disjointed production.
Of course.
When your legacy actors are only half invested and your new leads are a revolving door, the audience can't find that comfortable rhythm that soaps rely on.
But if the casting was chaotic, the writer's room was just trying to compensate by dialing everything up to 11.
We have to talk about the evil twin storyline.
Ah, yes. The Tate brothers. Classic soap trope. But Return to Peyton Place really leaned into the darker side of it.
So Allison McKenzie, our new Allison, she comes back to town after 3 years. She's mysterious, and she brings a husband, Benny Tate.
But Benny isn't just a husband. He's a plot device with a ticking clock. He has a terminal disease.
And this is where the evil twin thing kicks in.
He has a brother, Jason Tate.
And Jason is, well, He's just the worst.
The absolute antithesis of Benny. So when Benny realizes he's dying, Jason steps in. He literally steals his brother's identity.
And Allison has no idea.
No idea. But unlike the gentle Benny, Jason is abusive. And it gets so dark. I was reading that Jason actually gets Allison hooked on drugs.
He does. The sweet, innocent Allison Mackenzie from the original show is now being manipulated into addiction by an imposter husband. That's a lot.
And that leads to maybe the most infamous sequence in the show's entire run, the cabin by the lake.
Oh, yeah.
This part just blows my mind. We're talking 1972-73. The counterculture is seeping into daytime. Jason kidnaps Allison, takes her to this remote cabin.
And according to the plot summaries, Allison takes LSD.
LSD on a soap opera between commercials for like laundry detergent.
I mean, it reflects the era, but it leads to this psychedelic experience where her reality just blurs. She thinks she's defending herself.
She grabs the gun.
Elliot Carson's gun, actually, and she shoots at the man she thinks is Benny.
But it's Jason.
Correct. And to top it all off, the cabin then burns down with a body inside.
That is just peak drama. You've got drugs, mistaken identity, a shooting, arson, a dead body. And poor Allison gets charged with second-degree murder.
Which is a strong setup for a story, right? Puts your heroine in peril. But the resolution is pure soap opera.
Let me guess. The real Benny comes back.
The real Benny, who is supposed to be dying, basically rises from his deathbed. He confesses he killed Jason in a confrontation at the cabin, which clears Allison's name. And then he promptly dies of his illness.
Wow. Efficient. He just cleaned up the whole mess and exited stage left.
Very tidy.
But, you know, speaking of that murder trial, there's a really weird piece of TV history attached to this whole storyline.
This is one of those facts that really surprises people.
So Return to Peyton Place is a daytime show, right? Airs in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But on January 21st, 1973, NBC did something they almost never do. They aired a special episode in primetime.
A daytime soap. At night.
Yes, on a Sunday night, right after Columbo.
After Columbo, that's prime real estate. Peter Falk was like the king of television then.
It was. The special was basically a recap of the climax of the Benny Tate murder trial. It was a clear attempt to grab that evening audience.
The people who watched the original.
Exactly. The people who weren't home during the day and hook them back in.
It shows they knew the brand still had power. They just couldn't figure out how to, bridge that gap.
And speaking of talent, I found this fascinating. The head writer for a lot of this run was none other than James Lipton.
Get out of here. The James Lipton. Inside the actor's studio, James Lipton.
The very same. Before he was asking stars about their favorite curse word, he was writing LSD storylines for daytime.
That's incredible.
And he was actually the one who cast Catherine Glass as Allison.
That makes sense. Lipton always had an eye for serious actors. He took the craft very seriously.
He called her a treasure. He said she had emotional suppleness.
Emotional suppleness. That is the most James Lipton thing I have ever heard.
Isn't it? It just speaks to the level of ambition they had. They weren't trying to make trash.
No, they were trying to make serious drama just on this relentless daily schedule.
But it wasn't just psychedelic cabins. We also had the classic soap staples, right?
Mm-hmm.
Falling downstairs and fake paternity tests.
It wouldn't be Peyton Place without the scandals of the Mackenzie and Harrington families.
Okay, so let's look at Connie Mackenzie. Her marriage to Elliot falls apart.
Right. And she ends up having an affair with Dr. Michael Rossi. But the complication here is a character named Selena Cross.
And Selena's a deep cut for fans, right?
A very deep cut. Readers of the original book will know her name. She was a huge character in the novel, but she was considered way too risque for the 1960s primetime show.
So the daytime show finally brought her in.
They did. And she marries Dr. Rossi, but he's still in love with Connie.
Which leads to the incident.
The staircase. A trope as old as the genre itself. Selena confronts Connie. They argue. Selena pushes Connie. Connie falls.
And Connie was pregnant.
She was. And this is where the show gets surprisingly gritty again. The baby is injured in the fall, and Connie and Dr. Rossi agree to a secret abortion.
Wow.
And then Connie covers for Selena, says it was an accident. It's a very heavy moral thicket they walked into there.
That is heavy. And meanwhile, over at the Harrington mansion, it is just as messy. We have to talk about the grandfather, Martin Peyton.
This is the ultimate soap resurrection.
Yeah.
In the original series, Martin Peyton died. We saw the funeral. It was a whole thing.
But in Return to Peyton Place, not so much.
The writers just decided, well, what if he didn't?
He staged his own death.
Exactly. He comes back to town, very much alive, mostly to manipulate his heirs.
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot to manipulate.
You've got the Betty Anderson situation.
Oh, yes. Betty has a son named Peyton, and she lets everyone believe the father is Rodney Harrington, the heir.
To secure the family fortune.
Of course. But the audience knows the real father is Stephen Cord. So it's this deadlock of greed and secrecy.
So you have all these ingredients, the brand name, James Lipton writing, primetime specials, LSD, evil twins. Why didn't this show last? Why aren't we talking about it like General Hospital?
It really comes down to two things, competition and pacing.
Let's talk competition first. What was it up against?
It was a brutal time slot. You had one life to live on ABC, which was established. But the real killer was on CBS. In July 1973, CBS premiered Match Game 73.
Oh, that's game over. Match Game was a monster.
It's a juggernaut. It was fast. It was funny. You had Gene Rayburn, Brett Summers, Charles Nelson Riley. It became the top-rated program in daytime.
And Return to Peyton Place is this moody, slow drama.
It just got crushed. It's like trying to recite poetry at a rock concert. The energy was just all wrong for what people wanted at 3:30 in the afternoon.
And that brings us to pacing.
Exactly. I found a quote from Ron Russell, who played Norman Harrington, and he did not pull any punches.
What'd he say?
He called the first year and a half the slowest-moving daytime drama in history.
Ouch. That's harsh coming from one of the actors.
But probably accurate. They were trying to replicate that slower, cinematic feel of the primetime show, but daytime viewers need that daily rhythm. If a story drags, people just switch the channel to Match Game.
So NBC pulls the plug, January 1974, gone.
Gone. Replaced by a show called How to Survive a Marriage, which ironically did not survive very long either.
So what's the legacy here? It feels like an experiment that just didn't quite work.
It was an ambitious failure. That's the best way to put it. It tried to bridge the gap between nighttime prestige and daytime habits. And it proved you can't just rely on a famous name.
Especially when the casting is so shaky.
Right. It's a lesson in you can't go home again. Or at least you can't go back to Peyton Place without the original stars.
The laughs.
Yeah.
And you definitely can't do it when the pacing puts people to sleep.
Before the LSD even kicks in.
Exactly. But before we wrap up, we have to talk about that final scene. Because for the people who did stick it out, the ending was, well, there wasn't one.
There really wasn't. The show was canceled pretty abruptly. The final image viewers were left with involved the dead grandfather, Martin Peyton.
He's back in town.
He returns with one goal: stop the weddings. Stephen is about to marry Betty. Rodney is about to marry Allison. Martin Peyton storms in to forbid it all.
Yeah.
And that's it. Cut to black.
Away.
That's the end of the series. We never find out if he stopped them. We never find out what happens next. It's a cliffhanger that has been hanging for over 50 years.
So Martin Peyton is just still standing there shouting, "I object," into the void.
A fittingly dramatic and unfinished end for a show that never quite found its footing.
Well, if you have a theory on what happened after the cameras cut to black in 1974, we definitely want to hear it. Let us know what you think in the comments below.
And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of TV's forgotten corners, make sure you hit that like button.
Absolutely. Like, subscribe, and comment. It really helps us bring more of these wild stories to light. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you on the next Deep Dive.